Arizona Territory, 1873. The unforgiving heat of the desert sun beat down on Zachary Griffith as he rode his chestnut mare across the vast, arid landscape. At 24, he still maintained the optimism of youth despite the harsh realities of life as a cowhand. His honey-brown hair caught golden highlights in the sun, and the light stubble on his strong jawline couldn't hide the handsomeness of his features. Lean and athletic from years of hard riding, Zachary had the easy confidence of a man who knew his worth, but none of the arrogance that often accompanied it. "We've been riding for days, Sam," Zachary said to his trail companion, Samuel Wilkes, a weather-beaten cowboy in his 40s. "That cattle drive money ain't gonna last much longer." "Patience, kid," Sam replied, adjusting his weathered hat. "Tucson's just beyond those hills. We'll find work there or die trying." What neither man knew as they approached the modest settlement was that fate had plans that would alter the course of Zachary's life forever. Plans that involved a mysterious cave, an ancient map, and a woman with eyes like twilight. Emma Harrington stood behind the counter of her father's general store, meticulously arranging a display of ribbon spools by color. At 22, she had the kind of beauty that turned heads without trying. Rich auburn hair swept up in a practical, yet becoming style, fair skin lightly freckled across her nose, and an intelligence in her blue eyes that intimidated as many men as it attracted. Her calico dress was simple but well-made, its blue pattern complementing her eyes. "Emma, dear, would you check on those new shipments of coffee?" called her father from the back room. "Yes, Papa," she replied, setting aside her work. The bell above the door jingled, and Emma looked up to see two dust-covered cowboys enter the store. The older one had the hardened look of a man who'd seen his share of troubles, but it was the younger one who caught her attention. Tall and lean, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he removed his hat and smiled at her. "Afternoon, ma'am," he said, his voice carrying a gentle southern lilt. "We've just ridden in from Texas way. Might you know of any outfits hiring?" Emma felt a flutter in her chest that took her by surprise. "The Double R Ranch posted a notice just yesterday. They're looking for experienced hands for a drive up to Colorado." The young cowboy's smile widened. "That's mighty fortunate timing. I'm Zachary Griffith. This here's Sam Wilkes." "Emma Harrington," she replied, extending her hand in a manner her mother would have deemed too forward. Zachary took it gently, and Emma couldn't help noticing the warmth of his calloused palm against hers. As their eyes met, neither was aware that their chance encounter would soon lead them into a dangerous adventure, one that would test not only their courage but their hearts as well. 2 weeks later, Zachary had settled into work at the Double R. The ranch owner, Robert Reynolds, was a fair employer, and the work suited Zachary's skills. But it was the proximity to town, to Emma, that truly made him grateful for the position. On his first day off, Zachary rode into Tucson, his heart quickening as he approached the general store. Emma was sweeping the porch, her auburn hair catching the light as she moved. "Miss Harrington," he called, dismounting. "I thought I might thank you properly for your help the other day." Emma's smile lit up her face. "Mr. Griffith, I see you found employment with the Double R." "I did indeed, and I was wondering if you might allow me to escort you to the social on Saturday night." Emma hesitated, her eyes darting toward the store window where her father watched with interest. "I'd like that," she finally said. What Zachary couldn't know was that Emma's acceptance wasn't merely about him. 3 nights earlier, she had overheard a troubling conversation between a man named Jackson Reeves, a wealthy rancher with political aspirations, and a stranger with a distinctive scar. They had discussed something about ancient riches and eliminating obstacles. Emma had a feeling they were up to no good, and something about the way Reeves had looked at her made her blood run cold. Perhaps getting closer to someone like Zachary, a man who clearly knew how to handle himself, might not be such a bad idea while she figured out what Reeves was planning. The social was everything a frontier town could manage. Lanterns hung from the rafters of the community hall, casting warm light over the wooden floor where couples danced to the enthusiastic fiddling of local musicians. Emma wore her best dress, a deep green creation that brought out the auburn highlights in her hair. "You look beautiful," Zachary said, his voice almost reverent as he led her onto the dance floor. Emma felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you. You clean up rather well yourself, cowboy." It was true. Zachary had traded his work clothes for a clean white shirt and dark vest that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders. His honey-brown hair was neatly combed, and he'd shaved clean for the occasion. As they danced, Emma found herself genuinely enjoying Zachary's company. He told her stories of cattle drives and the wide Texas plains where he'd grown up, and she shared tales of life in the growing Arizona town. But their pleasant evening was interrupted when Jackson Reeves entered the hall, his presence commanding immediate attention. "That's Jackson Reeves," Emma whispered, tensing in Zachary's arms. "He owns half the valley and wants to own the rest, including my father's store." Zachary's brow furrowed. "Has he been giving you trouble?" Before Emma could answer, Reeves approached them, his smile not reaching his cold eyes. "Miss Harrington, lovely as always. I don't believe I've met your friend." "Zachary Griffith, sir," Zachary said, extending his hand. New hand at the double R. Reeves shook his hand with obvious disinterest. "A cowboy. How charming. Miss Harrington, I was hoping to discuss that business proposition with your father again. Perhaps tomorrow?" "He's given you his answer, Mr. Reeves," Emma replied evenly. "The store isn't for sale." Something dangerous flickered in Reeves's eyes before his practiced smile returned. "Well, circumstances change. People change their minds, especially when they understand the alternatives." After Reeves moved on, Zachary looked at Emma with concern. "What was that about?" Emma hesitated, then decided to trust her instincts. "And Zachary, he's been trying to buy our store for months. But I think there's more to it than business. I overheard him talking about some kind of ancient riches hidden somewhere in the area." Zachary's eyes widened. "Ancient riches? Like a treasure? I don't know. But whatever it is, he's willing to go to extreme lengths to get it. He mentioned eliminating obstacles. And now he's pressuring my father." Little did they know, Reeves was watching them from across the room, his mind calculating. The cowboy was an unexpected complication, one he might need to deal with if he was to secure what he'd been searching for all these years. The next morning, Zachary and Sam rode out early to check on a section of broken fence along the ranch's southern boundary. As they worked in the rising heat, Zachary couldn't stop thinking about Emma and what she'd told him. "Sam, you've been in these parts a while. Ever heard tales of treasure around here?" Sam paused, hammer in mid-swing. "What kind of treasure?" "Not sure. Something old. Ancient, maybe." The older cowboy's weathered face grew serious. "There are stories. Old Apache legends about sacred places hidden in the hills. Most folks think it's just talk, but—" He glanced around as if checking for eavesdroppers. "My grandpa once told me about a cave system where the ancient ones left something of great value. Not gold, but something more important." "Where would such a cave be?" Sam pointed toward a distant mesa, somewhere up in those formations. "But listen, Zach, those places are sacred to the native folks. And there's a reason no one's found whatever's supposed to be there. The land itself protects its secrets." As they continued working, neither man noticed the rider observing them from a distance, the same scarred man Emma had seen with Reeves. That evening, Zachary was unsaddling his horse when a young boy ran into the stable, out of breath. "Mr. Griffith?" the boy panted. "Miss Harrington sent me. Says it's urgent you come to the store right away." Zachary's heart pounded as he rushed into town. When he arrived at the general store, he found the front window shattered and Emma tending to her father, who sat in a chair with a bloodied temple. "What happened?" Zachary demanded, kneeling beside them. "Two men," Mr. Harrington said weakly, "claimed they were collecting a debt. When I told them to leave, they did this." Emma's eyes flashed with anger. "It was Reeves's men. I'm sure of it. And they took something. A small wooden box my grandfather left us. I never knew what was in it, but Papa always kept it locked in the safe." Zachary frowned. "Does this have something to do with what you overheard about ancient riches?" "I think it must," Emma said. "But why would a small-time shopkeeper have anything to do with treasure?" Mr. Harrington sighed heavily. "Because your grandfather wasn't always a shopkeeper, Emma. Before he settled here, he was an explorer. He spent years living among the Apache, learning their ways and their stories." Emma stared at her father in shock. "You never told me that. He made me promise not to. Said it was safer that way." Mr. Harrington winced as Emma dabbed at his wound. "That box contained a map, an ancient one, showing the location of a sacred Apache site. Your grandfather was entrusted with protecting it. And now Reeves has it," Zachary said grimly. Mr. Harrington shook his head. "No. What Reeves took was a decoy. Your grandfather was too clever for that. The real map." He reached into his vest and pulled out a folded piece of aged leather. The real map never leaves my person. Emma and Zachary exchanged looks of astonishment as Mr. Harrington carefully unfolded the leather to reveal intricate markings that appeared to be a map of the surrounding region. Papa, why would Reeves want this so badly? Because, my dear, what it leads to isn't just valuable, it's powerful. And in the wrong hands, it could be dangerous. As the three of them studied the ancient map, none of them noticed the shadow that passed by the broken window, a shadow belonging to someone who had heard everything. Dawn broke over the Arizona desert as Zachary, Emma, and Sam prepared to set out. Mr. Harrington had insisted that they take the map to a friend of his grandfather's, a medicine man who lived in a small Apache settlement 2 days' ride from town. He would know how to protect it. I should stay with you, Papa, Emma had argued. But her father was resolute. You know these hills better than most, Emma, and I trust Zachary to protect you. He glanced at the young cowboy with a knowing look. Besides, I've already sent word to the marshal. He'll be here by midday. Now, as they rode out of town before most folks were awake, Emma couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. She wore practical riding clothes, split skirts that allowed her to ride astride, a cotton blouse, and a wide-brimmed hat to shield her face from the sun. The map was secured inside a leather pouch that hung around her neck. You think Reeves will figure out he's got the wrong map? Sam asked as they picked their way through the scrubby terrain. If he hasn't already, Zachary replied, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Which means we need to move fast. Emma pointed toward a craggy ridgeline. According to the map, we need to head through that pass. There's a series of landmarks that should guide us to the cave. As they rode, Zachary found himself increasingly impressed by Emma. She was not only beautiful but skilled in the saddle and knowledgeable about the land. Each time she caught him looking at her, a spark passed between them that had nothing to do with their dangerous mission. By midday, they had reached the pass, a narrow gap between towering rock walls that channeled a welcome cool breeze. They dismounted to lead their horses through the uneven terrain. Wait, Sam said suddenly, holding up his hand. Listen. In the silence, they could hear the distant sound of hoofbeats, multiple riders moving fast. Reeves, Emma whispered. Zachary's jaw tightened. We need to move. Now. They hurried through the pass, the sounds of pursuit growing louder. Just as they emerged on the other side, a shot rang out, the bullet striking the rock wall inches from Zachary's head. Ride, he shouted, helping Emma onto her horse. They galloped across the open ground toward a stand of juniper trees, bullets kicking up dust behind them. Sam suddenly cried out, clutching his arm as blood seeped between his fingers. Keep going, he yelled to Zachary and Emma. I'll hold them off. Sam, no. Zachary protested. Go, kid. Get her to safety. With a heavy heart, Zachary nodded and spurred his horse forward, Emma close behind. The last they saw of Sam, he was taking position behind a boulder, his rifle raised. They rode hard until they reached a small canyon where a stream cut through the red rock. Only then did they pause to catch their breath. We can't leave him, Emma said, her face pale with worry. Sam knows what he's doing, Zachary assured her, though his voice betrayed his concern. He'll lead them away from us if he can. Emma unfolded the map with trembling hands. According to this, we're close. The cave should be near a formation that looks like. She squinted at the faded markings. A sleeping bear. They both scanned the surrounding cliffs until Zachary pointed. There. See how that ridge forms what could be a bear's back, with that outcropping as its head. Emma nodded. Let's go. As they approached the formation, the sound of a distant gunshot echoed through the canyon. They exchanged worried glances, but pressed on, knowing that turning back now would make Sam's sacrifice meaningless. The cave entrance was cleverly hidden behind a cascade of vines and brush, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. Zachary cleared away enough vegetation for them to slip inside, then carefully replaced it to cover their tracks. The interior of the cave was cool and dark. Zachary struck a match, lighting the small lantern they'd brought. The flame revealed walls covered in ancient pictographs, stylized figures of humans, animals, and symbols neither of them recognized. It's beautiful, Emma whispered, her voice filled with awe. Zachary nodded, equally impressed by the ancient artistry. But where does the map lead us from here? Emma studied the leather map again, comparing it to their surroundings. There, she said, pointing to a narrow passage that branched off from the main cavern. We need to follow that. The passage twisted deeper into the earth, sometimes so narrow they had to turn sideways to navigate it. Just when Zachary began to worry they might be lost, the passage widened into another chamber, smaller than the first, but even more breathtaking. In the center of the chamber sat a stone pedestal, and upon it rested a clay vessel decorated with intricate designs. Behind it, the cave wall displayed an enormous pictograph, a tree with branches that reached toward the ceiling and roots that extended down to the floor. The tree of life, Emma breathed, recognizing the symbol from her grandfather's books. They approached the pedestal slowly, respectful of the sacred space. Emma carefully lifted the vessel's lid to reveal what lay inside. Not gold or jewels, but seeds. Dozens of them, preserved in dry clay. Seeds? Zachary frowned in confusion. This is the treasure? Emma's eyes widened with understanding. Not just any seeds. Look at the markings on the vessel: corn, squash, beans. These must be ancient seed varieties, preserved for generations. My grandfather once told me that the Apache and other tribes considered seeds to be their most precious possession, the key to survival. And Reeves wants them? What? Control, came a voice from the passage behind them. Control the food, control the people. They whirled to find Jackson Reeves standing there, a revolver in his hand. Behind him loomed the scarred man Emma had seen in town. Thank you for leading us here, Reeves said with a cold smile. I've been searching for this place for years. Your grandfather was very clever, Miss Harrington, hiding the true map all this time. Zachary moved protectively in front of Emma. You won't get away with this, Reeves. Oh, but I already have. With these ancient seed varieties, I'll develop crops that grow where nothing else will. The government is offering substantial grants to anyone who can improve agricultural yields in the territories. I'll own not just the land, but the very food people eat. These seeds don't belong to you, Emma said fiercely. They belong to the people who have protected them for generations. Reeves laughed. Progress waits for no one, my dear. Now step aside. What about Sam? Zachary demanded. What did you do to him? A flicker of confusion crossed Reeves's face. The old cowboy? We lost him in the canyon. But it doesn't matter now. As Reeves stepped forward, Zachary tensed, ready to fight despite the gun aimed at his chest. But before either man could move, a new voice echoed through the chamber, a voice speaking in Apache. From another passage, previously unnoticed, emerged an elderly Native American man, followed by Sam, bloodied but alive. Samuel Wilkes, Zachary exclaimed. You old fox. Sam grinned despite his wound. Told you my grandpa knew stories about these caves. What I didn't mention was that he was half Apache himself. When I got hit, I remembered there was supposed to be another entrance. Found White Feather here guarding it. The elderly Apache man, White Feather, spoke in careful English. These seeds are sacred. They cannot be taken by one who would use them for power. Reeves sneered. One old man and a wounded cowboy won't stop me. He raised his gun toward White Feather. Zachary saw his chance and lunged forward, tackling Reeves to the ground. The gun went off, the bullet ricocheting off the cave wall. Emma screamed as the scarred man moved toward her, but Sam, despite his injury, intercepted him. The struggle was brief but violent. Zachary, younger and stronger than Reeves, managed to disarm him, while Sam and White Feather together subdued the scarred man. It's over, Reeves, Zachary said, breathing hard. White Feather approached the pedestal, examining the vessel to ensure it was undamaged. You have done well to protect the seeds, he said to Emma. Your grandfather would be proud. Emma's eyes glistened with tears. You knew him? The old man nodded. He was a friend to my people when few white men were. He helped us hide these seeds when the army came to force us onto reservations. They are life itself, our past, and our future. What will happen to them now? Zachary asked. They will be moved to a new safe place, White Feather replied. And the knowledge of them will be shared with those who will use it wisely. He looked pointedly at Emma. Your grandfather wished for you to learn our ways, to help bridge understanding between our peoples. Perhaps now is the time. As White Feather spoke with Emma, Sam tied up Reeves and his henchmen with rope from his saddlebags. Marshall's going to be mighty interested in these too, he said, especially after what they did to Mr. Harrington. Zachary moved to Emma's side. Are you all right? She nodded, her eyes still on the ancient vessel. I never knew this part of my family's history. It changes everything. What will you do? Emma looked up at him, a new determination in her eyes. Learn. Understand. Help preserve this knowledge. She hesitated. But I'll need someone by my side. Someone I can trust. Zachary's heart quickened as he took her hand. I'm not going anywhere, Emma. Not without you. In the soft glow of the lantern light, surrounded by the ancient wisdom etched into the cave walls, their eyes met with a promise that transcended words. 6 months later, the Harrington General Store had expanded to include a small nursery where traditional seed varieties were cultivated and shared with local farmers, both white and native. Emma, with guidance from White Feather and other tribal elders, had become a respected bridge between cultures, documenting agricultural practices that had sustained people in the harsh desert environment for centuries. Jackson Reeves and his accomplice had been convicted of assault and attempted robbery, their political aspirations destroyed by the scandal. The Double R Ranch, under new management after Robert Reynolds decided to retire to California, now employed Sam as foreman. As for Zachary, he had found his place, not just as a cowhand, but as Emma's partner in both business and life. On a warm spring evening, as the sun set over the distant mesas, he knelt before her in the small garden behind the store. Emma Harrington, you've shown me that true treasure isn't gold or silver, but the wisdom of the past and the promise of the future. He opened his palm to reveal a simple gold ring. Will you marry me? Emma's smile outshone the setting sun as she pulled him to his feet. Yes, Zachary Griffith. 1,000 times yes. Their kiss sealed a promise born in danger but flourishing in peace, a love as enduring as the ancient seeds they had protected together. Behind them, the garden flourished with plants grown from some of those very seeds, gifts from White Feather to start their new life together. Ancient varieties of corn, beans, and squash grew in traditional companion plantings, a living testament to the knowledge that had been preserved in that hidden cave. As twilight deepened into night, Zachary and Emma sat on the porch swing, planning their future together. They would expand the nursery, continue documenting traditional agricultural practices, and perhaps someday have children who would carry on their work. I never expected to find you when I rode into Tucson that day, Zachary said, his arm around Emma's shoulders. I was just looking for work, and I never expected a handsome cowboy to lead me to my family's true legacy, Emma replied, leaning her head against his chest. I suppose sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones we don't even know we're searching for. In the distance, the silhouette of the Sleeping Bear Formation was visible against the star-filled sky, a guardian of secrets that had brought them together and changed their lives forever. The ancient map, carefully preserved, now hung framed in Mr. Harrington's study, no longer a secret to protect, but a story to remember. And in the garden behind the store, new life grew from ancient seeds, connecting past to present, and weaving together the lives of all who tended them. For Zachary and Emma, it was just the beginning of their story, one rooted in the rich soil of history, but reaching toward a shared future as vast and promising as the western sky.